Hello, hello, hello. Wherever you are, namaste and God bless you. And thank you for joining us on our first maiden voyage of the Him and Her SoulSpace monthly masterclass series, where we are focusing on issues that are very relevant to the Black community and going really in depth with other people that we'll be bringing on to the monthly panel to flesh it out with us, to really just go into what it is that people experience being in that field and dealing with that issue directly, and also giving some tips for you as far as how you can better navigate that situation for you as an individual, for you as a family, for us as a community. I am your him host with most, Chad Nails, Master Life Coach, certified Master Life Coach, certified mindfulness meditation practitioner, and also certified cognitive behavioral therapist. Alongside me is my always fantastic her host. Take it away.
Sure. My name is Nini Wyndham. I am a life coach, business owner of The Essence of Her, and that's about it. I don't know how many hits you have, Chad, but we're doing this.
That's what it is.
Yes.
And joining us today on this maiden voyage, I have had the pleasure of getting to speak to and know three on the planet for what they do. Three very passionate, three very talented, three very dedicated mental health workers that I've had the privilege, some I've known longer than others, but I've had the privilege of seeing just how much they glow, how much wisdom and how much expertise and how much passion that they bring to this issue. Starting with Miss Ashley, please, if you would take it away.
Sure. Hi, my name is Ashley Pinnell. I am currently a master's level intern, so I'm in the final stages of my internship and will be graduating soon with my master's in clinical mental health. I am working towards my LPC after that, and I plan to also become ASEC certified for sex education and sex therapy with a mental health background. Other than that, I'm married, mom of 4 kids, and trying to do all the things and still take care of my mental health.
That's what I'm talking about. All right. Moving on from Miss Ashley, we have Miss Kalisha, please, if you don't mind.
Hi, everybody. As you'll hear me speak, I say, hey, friends. Nice to see everybody. My name is Kalisha Smith. Hey, Kalisha Smith, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker in New Jersey, and I've been privileged to doing this work somewhere around 17 years in social work of kind of all different parts of it. Right now I am in private practice and I own a business called Wise Counsel Services. I'm also a licensed minister in the Christian church, and I'm married to a pastor, and I'm a mom of 5 girls. So I'm blessed to be here with y'all tonight. I'll talk to you later a little bit more, friends.
Lord, God bless you for all of that. For all of that. And last but not least, we have Miss Tiffany.
Hello. I'm Tiffany Reddick. I am a licensed professional counselor practicing out of Atlanta, Georgia. I have been in the field, my professional career, my entire professional career since graduating in 2004. And I am currently full-time employed in an employee assistance program, which we may be able to get into a little later. And I am in the process of launching my private practice, Flourish Therapy Bar, a customizable boutique therapy practice. And so I look forward to, learning, imparting learning, and just enjoying the experience. Personal note, I live in Atlanta. I love in Atlanta. I travel, and I am a pet mom, and many more things, but we'll get to that later.
All right, fantastic. So, as y'all can see, and I promise this will be the last time I'm saying it, just for the sake of saying that camera. Y'all see why I'm in the best place in the world. I'm gonna just say that. But so as for those of you who are familiar with the Himmer space, you know we pull no punches. Our slogan is two coaches, one space, zero reservations. So when we come at a subject, we come at it with no holds barred. We try to be as forthright and as concise and as full as we can in the response to an issue within the time frame that we give ourselves. So what you're going to hear right now, some of it, there may be some things that are talked about that may be triggering to you. We put that in front of what we're doing right now, with no malice, of course, if we're not out to rival anybody up. But we also do dedicate ourselves to being as full a service to the community as possible, which means sometimes dipping into things that are going to be uncomfortable. So we put that disclaimer out there beforehand. We also say that while we do have mental health professionals here, anything that we talk about, it should not be taken as full-on advice for you to kind of like run home with me, anything like that. Anything that we talk about here, if you feel that it's something that be useful to you, we advise you that you seek out a mental health professional in your area that will be able to assist you with that. None of this should be taken as the gospel truth, for you to just run off with. All right. So with all that being said, we're going to just dip a little bit more into what it is to handle or navigate mental health within the Black community. And with that, we're going to just dip a little bit more into what our approaches are here, just so you have an understanding of some of the different methods that are employed. So first question to our maiden soul space: what are some of the niche modalities and approaches that you have to Black mental health? And for that, we are actually going to start with Miss Reddick. Tiffany, if you wouldn't mind.
I thought I would have time to review my notes. So, in regards to my personal and professional practices with Black mental health, specifically, I study under Shauna Murray Brown, who is a licensed clinical social worker based out of Baltimore, Maryland. She has been in this game, in this field for a long time, and as a part of her doctoral program has developed a framework called liberatory healing, and it focuses on African diasporic practices and how we can actively go about the work of decolonizing therapy and creating radical liberation for Black folks. And it explores the influences of colonization in the therapy field, because, as you may or may not know, most of the practices and theories that we study under in the mental health field were developed by white men, for white men, studied and practiced, peer-reviewed research by white men. We were not included in that. And so with that, while they may be helpful, while they may be beneficial, there are some things that can be, difficult to reconcile in the Black experience. And so she walks through some tenets that we can utilize and cultivate as we ourselves are decolonizing as practitioners, and how we can help the folks that are sitting with us, that are partnering with us on their journey to decolonize themselves and really take this holistic approach, African-centered approach, cultivating a village, being able to engage in like embodied healing practices in which we are reintegrating our mind, our body, and our spirit, which is only like a recent push that has happened in psychology, and reclaiming wellness, what it looks like for Black folks. That is my very specific studying that I do with Black folks, but I also incorporate some of the work of Dr. Brene Brown, who is a white woman, however, does a lot of things with authenticity and shame resilience, which are issues that come up when we talk about beginning to decolonize and look at and explore what being Black in America or wherever you happen to be is. And her approach, her grounded theory approach, did include and incorporate Black folks, Black women in the process. In addition to that, kind of bringing in some neuroscience or brain science and some trauma-informed practices to help, individualize, personalize, and really begin to unpack what it looks like to be well and be Black in America from that radical liberation perspective.
All right. Thank you so much for that. All right. Y'all didn't catch all that. That's why we're recording.
You're running back.
Go back on mute, okay? But that is awesome. I think that's a fantastic thing. And it does need to be custom made for us. I do believe I agree with that. So much appreciated for that, for taking that step. All right, moving on to Kalisha of Wise Counsel, please.
So I've had the privilege of, like I said, working in this field for the last 17 years. And I think because of that, when I look at kind of what modalities or frameworks I use, I find myself to be pretty eclectic, to be honest. So whether I'm working with people of color, whether I'm working with different kinds of populations, I find that I work hard to utilize the framework that I feel best meets the need of the person sitting in front of me. So that could be a little of everything. But that being said, I find myself leaning a lot on CBT. I find myself using the narrative approach. I'm a storyteller. I'm a pastor's daughter. I'm a preacher myself. So narrative, it speaks to me, witnessing with people their story, helping them write their story and personify their problems. It really moves me. And I think it moves folks, particularly Black folks, right? Because we love a good story, and kind of being in control of our own narrative is something that is really empowering for folks, right? So I also find myself using dashes of DBT here and there. I believe it's really important for people to fully accept who they are, but also have that motivation for something beyond themselves, to see the hope for something different. And I think that tension between acceptance and, desire for change is something that moves people. And I also find myself using the cultural context model. I was privileged to work with Dr. Ria Almeida here in New Jersey, and she is at the Institute for Family Services. And really what her framework is about is kind of looking at the systems of power and privilege, and helping people self-locate in their true identity, and kind of utilizing that model to see themselves and see that the challenges that they may experience or what they're going through is not just based on kind of what's going on with them internally, but it's also, based on what's going on in society, what's going on in the world around us. And also it leans very heavy on the idea that it takes community for change to happen in the personal. So there's a lot of work, there's not a lot of individual work with Dr. Almeida. There's a lot of work about the community. And I think that speaks to people of color in general. And I think that speaks to Black folks, because we know that forward movement in our community has really been about this loving accountability, right? And so now we have language for it. We've always done it in our own ways, but now mental health really has an appreciation for how my struggle is your struggle is your struggle, and my healing is your healing is your healing, and really holding each other to that, right? Because it matters for our children. And kind of the foundation or the bedrock of this eclectic modality, if you will, is faith. My foundation really is faith. And for me, that faith is in Jesus Christ. And so a lot of the work that I do is really around being a bridge, because I don't see a separation between people's spirituality and their mental health. I believe we were created mind, body, and soul. And, my personal faith system is really around the fact that I truly believe God is the wonderful counselor. So if that's the case, for folks that come to me that are open to talking about spirituality and their faith really can be a support, and it really can be a foundation for people. So you put all that in a bag, shake it up, and come out with some red locks. And that's kind of my practice.
I'll take it. And I love that multifaceted approach, which I also believe is something that has to be not only just crucial, but necessary. So I'm definitely with that. And last but not least, before Nini and I get into our own bag, it's Ashley, please.
All right. So being new to this field, I think is a benefit for me because I get to find out so much. I'm in school, so I get to see so many different things and learn so many different things. So I actually have an approach that's a mixture of both of these ladies. As they were talking, I was like, oh, that's me. So from Tiffany, I recognize being in school as I'm learning these modalities and these therapeutic methods, they were not meant to ever be used for us. They were not meant for the Black community. They were created by middle class, upper class white men, and that is who they were meant for. So in knowing that, I tried to look for modalities that would be specific or that could be catered to us. So feminist theory stuck out to me, but I was like, okay, this reminds me of the feminist movement, which also did include Black women originally. So there's a spinoff of that is womanist therapy that I love to use because it incorporates the intersectionality of being a woman and being Black, because we cannot let go of either of those two identities. They're combined. And I find that because that throws a lot of people off, especially men. They're like, oh, you use womanist therapy. That's not, you can't help me. And I'm like, no, because it works on gender constructs and breaking down those societal elements that cause us to have the mental health issues that we have and cause us to struggle. So it helps to redefine things that we've already been taught, and it helps to deconstruct what we've already been taught in this society. So it can work with anyone. But I'm also, like Kalisha, very eclectic. I like to mix in a lot of things. Narrative therapy was one of my favorites when I first learned it, and I knew I would use it because I'm a writer and a poet at heart, so stories are my thing. So helping people to figure out the dominant story in their life, which is usually the problem-saturated story, and change that to an alternative that they want and that they see for themselves is a big thing for me, because I'm like, you can create the story that you want going forward, no matter what that past story is. And so I like to incorporate narrative therapy. I'm also very big on existential therapy because I recognize a lot of people struggle with what their purpose is. What the purpose is, what the reason for being is, their connection to themselves, their connection to other people, their connection to the spirit world. And existential therapy really hones in on that. And it also looks at, because a lot of the clients that I see now struggle with anxiety. So that particular modality looks at anxiety in another way. It kind of looks at it as this teacher. You can learn from your anxiety. You can learn how to manage it. You can learn how to use it to your benefit instead of it being this struggle. So I like to, those are the three that I really heavily use. I had such an aversion to CBT at first. I was like, oh, absolutely not. I will never use it. But I have used it. Like Kalisha said, it depends on the client. There are certain clients where that is going to work for them. So I will incorporate that. I'll incorporate DBT. I'll just pull from wherever if I think it'll work for that particular client. And I find that for my Black clients, usually a combination of womanist, narrative, and existential really helps, because they're just in this place where it's like, what do I do in this world that is not meant for me? That's kind of what I hear, like all the things going on in society that seem to be coming against me, these generational curses and generational elements that we come up with in the Black community. It's just like, how do I maneuver through that? That's what I hear from a lot of my Black clients. So I use a combination of those modalities. And I also am very big on mindfulness and grounding. Mindfulness techniques to me are something that are so simple, yet they're so powerful. Just knowing how to breathe and stay in the present moment is a big deal that we don't do. I find that a lot of times people will say, I haven't taken a deep breath in a long time. And I'm like, yes, because you're so tensed and everything is, you're doing everything. You don't even notice that you're not breathing. You're not really breathing. So I like to use a lot of mindfulness just to get people back into that presentness and to understand you can center and ground yourself no matter what's going on around you. So those are all the elements that I like to use so far. And I'm still new to this and learning, but I'm definitely loving it and having a wonderful time with it.
Well,
I would also...
I'm loving it too. Go ahead.
Oh, I would also like to, I think the underpinning of any approach that I take is what we call a person-centered approach, in which I defer. I am not the expert on anybody else's life. And so you defer to the person that you are sitting with, that you are holding the space with, as the expert on their own life, with a lot of unconditional positive regard, a lot of like reflection, and being able to move out of their way so that they can see, you know, the beauty, like in them, you know, in themselves, like this uncovering, like when they have that time, that space to explore. And I think when you do that, that's kind of where like almost the magic happens, because we have, so especially as Black folks, we have so few places in which there's just quiet and people are, you know, listening to you, you know, and holding you as the expert on your own life. And I think that in and of itself can be transformative. I am a loving and kind and compassionate therapist. I hope no one comes to me expecting, you know, Eon Levan Zant smackdown, because you will not get that. You may get some loving accountability, because I've heard you say this was your value and this is not how you are living. And so I want to hold that and reflect that to you, you know, but, and in that, I will even still give you like unconditional positive regard. Like you know, we will not like do any name callings or anything like that. Because again, like Black folks need like gentleness, kindness. Like we've had years of all of these, you know, folks saying, you know, horrible things reflected to us. Sometimes folks that are even close to us, and I refuse to be another one of those voices. Yes. And so that is kind of like what undergirds my whatever practice or therapy that I pull into the room with me, is that person is worthy and whole, and we are just trying to, you know, working together to figure it out. They're the expert on them, I'm the expert just on the process and asking the questions, and we're gonna sit back and learn and explore and stumble together.
I'm with that. Yeah, I think that's that is a really excellent point as far as the that nurturing approach. We know from a generational aspect how to be tough. It's learning how to be gentle that we have to do. So yeah, that, across the board, I'd say that's definitely a part, a very major part of what we need to do for our community. Moving on to just a little bit of a kind of like an origin story. What would you say is the main catalyst that moved you into this field? And I'll mix the bag up a little bit and start with Kalisha.
So I've kind of alluded to it. You know, I'm a church kid. We call them a PK when you're a pastor's child, and so I really grew up in the foundation of a very loving church, and a very loving pastor who was open to understanding and to helping folks. And, you know, I knew about counseling from a small child, not necessarily from the mental health professional scene, but definitely because people come to their pastor as their trusted leader, someone that they can, you know, get wise counsel from. So I knew of it. But when we think about, you know, kind of as I grew and as we think about the church, our faith, and then we think about mental health services or providers, those two worlds seem to be very separate. And, you know, I found that there was not this mutual love and respect between both of those entities. And I really placed the blame on neither entity. You know, I now, having been in this world, I'm kind of walking in this dual identity, very much grounded in my faith, but also very much grounded in who I am as a clinician. I really see that there's lots of misunderstandings from both sides. And so what I kind of come in, and a catalyst for me was really seeing that gap, or that supposed gap between the church and the, you know, psychology world was widening, if you will. And that gap was what really impacted me, right? Because I saw we were losing people in that gap. In that separation, people were falling under and dying. Our folks, our Black people, but all people really, you know, they were getting lost in that gap. And I really believe that I've been called to be, I said it before, I'll say it again, I've been called to be a bridge, right? I seek to help people get the support and the love that faith brings as their foundation. But I also very clearly see that mental health services, that psychology, that medication, and the medical field, because they all go together, right? That all of those things are a tool for healing and hope. And it's my role, it's my mission, it's my conversation to say these things aren't separate. My belief system tells me God created us holy. And so if that's the case, then these two entities being apart does us a huge disservice. So it's my job to come in the gap and hold the hands of both and say, no, come back together, because we can't miss people. We can't afford it. Our people are dying, y'all. 1 in 4 people here in America have a diagnosable mental health concern. And truth be told, when we look at our Black youth, the second leading cause of death for 10 to 34-year-olds is suicide. So we've got to do something, and it's going to require our whole community. And our whole community is what? It's the mental health professionals, it's the parents, and you know what? It's also the pastors and the churches, because they see our people too. So we've got to find a way to bring everybody together. So that's really kind of how I got here. And it's really the work that I do my best to do, whether I'm in a pulpit, whether I'm doing a panel, whether I'm having a conversation with a friend on Facebook, whether I'm in the street and see a mother with a child. Like, that's my role. Like, how do we infuse hope? How do we infuse healing? Because folks need to know that they can be whole, that's who they were created to be, that, like my sister Tiffany said, they are worthy beings, right? And we have everything in us that we need to move forward. Sometimes we just need a little support to get there. And that's kind of how I see myself. I'm just on the journey with you. I'm holding your hand as we go. And sometimes I might hold a little bit more on the faith-based side, and sometimes I'll hold a little bit more on the mental health side, but I'm right here in the middle holding you as we go. So that's kind of my journey. That's how I got there, and I'm going to sit in this role until somebody tells me otherwise.
All right. I like that. She does. Again, I'm in there. I'm with that. And I'm going to tell on myself real quick, because every time I throw out a question now, I figure out who I'm going to, throw it to first. I'm so tempted to say doctor in front of y'all names. So I don't know if that's me dipping into the ether a little bit, or that's just
affirm me, sir.
That's you know what, that's what I see y'all as. Even if you don't go for that actual doctor level, I see y'all as being that, just having that level of expertise in this. Whether you're just starting out like Ashley, or like myself, or like me, or whether you're really ingrained into it, like Dr. Tiffany or Dr. Kalisha. But yeah, I had to put that out there, because I was like, I'm thinking, who am I going to put it to next? I'm going to be like, yeah, Dr. Ashley. She's not a doctor, but she's there. She's there. You there? I'm gonna just there. All right. And with that being said, I'm gonna go to you next. What got you in this?
Well, let me just say, my mama been saying doctor for the past 3 or 4 months. She won't let it go. So I just let her say doctor. I don't even correct her.
All right.
I'm just speak it, and maybe that will be. Let's speak it and it will be. But so for me, it's a little bit, it's a mixture of personal, in that what you always wanted to be from a child. So growing up, I always knew I wanted to heal people. I just didn't know how. So as a kid, when we think of healing people, we automatically think of doctor. Like, you're gonna be a doctor, a medical kind of doctor, or like a pediatrician, something in that arena. So for me, it was, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. That was my thing. I want to go and be a brain surgeon and fix people's brain. That was me. So that was from 5 years old. I think my mother said I was about 4 or 5 when I first told her that. All the way up, I went to Xavier University of Louisiana, pre-med program. I was on the path for medical school. But of course, life happened. Things happened, and it was like, okay, maybe I don't want to go to medical school. I got to some chemistry classes that had me rethinking my whole life. So it was like, maybe not. Let's see where else I can heal. So life kind of happened. I ended up having my first daughter. I got married. Life literally took me out and gave me a minute to really look. And how the mental health field came about was because I had an uncle who was diagnosed bipolar. So he got a diagnosis of bipolar, and He got on some medication. That was fine, seeing the psychiatrist, but he would not go to a therapist to actually talk. He was fine going to get prescribed his meds and staying on them, but to actually talk, he didn't want to do. And I remember him saying to me, I'm not going to talk to no white man about my Black problems. It was just like that. I'm not going to talk to no white man or no white woman about my Black problems. So that got me to thinking. So I'm like, well, what if I asked him, I said, Uncle, what if I find you a Black therapist? And he was like, if you find me a Black therapist, fine. Now, this was years ago. I could not find a Black therapist within an hour of where we lived. So for me, that was something that called to me. It was like, we're not represented in this field. We're like, I shouldn't live, and I'm not even from a small place. It's not like I'm from a small place. But I was like, I shouldn't have to drive 2 hours to find a therapist that looks like me. Or in some cases, like right now, I live in Colorado, people got to drive 3-4 hours just to find a therapist that looks like them. Telehealth has helped with that a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, we just weren't represented in this field. So the more I looked into it, I tied it back to my childhood dream. I was like, think about this. I wanted to be a brain surgeon and physically fix people's brains doing surgery. This is the same thing. I am still working on that part of that person, what's going on up here mentally and how to make them whole in another way. So it was just like very natural at that point. My uncle getting that diagnosis and making me understand that we are not seen in this field, but we are the ones who dominate as far as having mental health issues, but not being able to seek the help because it's not available to us, or it's not affordable, or we got to drive so far to find somebody that looks like us, or all these different things that just keep us from getting the help that we need. And then it didn't help that my husband is active duty military, and in the military world, it's the same thing. This is a population that does not get the help that they need, and we're not represented in this population. So it's like, imagine being a Black female soldier. Like, you have so many things that you're dealing with, and you can't find somebody that looks like you to help you deal with them. So that really pushed me finally to say, you know what, I'm going back to school and I am going to help in this field as much as I can. I'm gonna do whatever I can, whatever I need to do. So I went back to school, pretty much kind of started over. And I think by that time I was pregnant with my third son. And I was like, I'm going back to school. Pregnant and all, I'm going back to school and I'm going for this, and I will do what I need to do to end up as a licensed counselor to help my people. That was my whole thing. I'm gonna help my people first.
Absolutely. Dead on. I love that. Whew. I'm gonna be all right. There's a lot of excellence going on right now. Going on to Doc Tiffany.
It's so funny because the culture is permeating and how we are so connected. Because I wish I had this like grand origin story. I had this epiphany. Howsoever, I do not. But I used to call myself like lazy a lot because I really just valued ease and flow. Well, I didn't even have the word for flow. I just like things easy, right? So I didn't necessarily have this grand, vision for my life. My when growing up Black and upwardly mobile, middle class, like doctor is the epitome, right? And so the folks in my families who were healers, so I do have a lineage of healers, were nurses. And so I told my mom I wanted to be a nurse, and she was like, why settle for nurse? Why don't you go for doctors? Like, no shade to nurses, and we know culture-wise, we won't go into that today. But and so I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll be a doctor then. I want to be a pediatrician because I like kids. I read a lot of Babysitters Club books, so I thought I liked kids. And so I was like, all right, I'll go be a pediatrician. And that seems fun. And so I kind of, in my head, whatever. So you get to college and, have to pick your major and stuff. I didn't even have an idea of picking the major. I was semi first gen. My folks had some college experience, but nobody had graduated by the time I was in school. And my best friend picked a learning community, and I was like, I want to go to school with my best friend, and I want to be in the same class with my best friend. So she picked this psychology learning community, or one that could position itself in the human services. So I was like, cool, easy, let's go. So then it comes time to pick our major. And it's so funny because I thought I was going to be a medical doctor, I applied and got accepted to Xavier. So I, considered going to Xavier because that's what middle class folks do. But I ended up, I went to Georgia State University because that's where my best friend went. When it was time to declare majors, I didn't even take a class. I looked at all the math and science courses and I said, no, thank you. I'll go into, social work, counseling, psychology. I was like, that seems nice and easy. So I'm not gonna do. I like reading, I like learning. You do a lot there, so let's do that. And so I just kind of went through my life coasting. And I beat myself up a lot about that because I felt like I was taking the easy route. Little did I know that part of what that was that I was undiagnosed ADHD. And that it was kind of like had its influences and ways in my world. And one of those things is that, as things seem hard, you kind of back off from them. However, I made it through college. And so I don't necessarily have like this epiphany moment. I just kind of, the next step would present itself. And I'm like, okay, I do that. I read a little bit and they say you do that. Okay, I do that. But I think what really shaped me in the way the counselor I am today was, I got my, master's, I got my license. And I got my license mainly because I didn't even think I wanted to be a counselor. I was not a therapist. I was like, I'm gonna sit down and talk to you, that's boring. But I found out that there was a program called a military family life counseling program, and that I love to travel, and that you would travel to military bases around the world. They would pay for your, hotel, give you money to travel. All you had to do was talk to the people. So that was literally my motivation for getting my license. I did that, got an assignment in a place called Guam, which is a U.S. territory in Pacific Islands. And it was life-changing because it was, I think it was 2016, 17. And it was another one of those summers or series of black male shootings. And I ended up on the island of Guam, and most of the folks are indigenous to Guam. So they are brown folks. And even though the island has been colonized, the U.S. territory, that their culture was evident and permeating through everything. You would see brown police officers, or Chamorro, or the indigenous folks. Chamorro and Romanian police officers. I went to the courthouse one day to get fingerprinted for an assignment. All the clerks and the judges and the lawyers, just everybody was brown. And I'm sure they had their issues. I'm sure there was, there's things that they were working through, but they were their things to work through. And I found myself getting jealous. And for the first time, because I was a pretty regular, moderate, I hadn't really declared any kind of political leanings at the time, Black person. And I would never imagine myself to be radical or, separatist or anything by any means. But for the first time, I found myself being jealous and saying, oh, this is what they talking about. Like not having that burden of, the rate, feeling like you were discriminated with because of the color of your skin, feeling like you got pulled over because of the color of your skin. And it was just this kind of epiphany for me coming off of, I think it was Philando Castile and Eric Garner's death, I want to say. And it was kind of pivotal. And from there, I kind of began to explore healing and counseling modalities that centered Black folks, Blackness. Started kind of looking at the integrated, not whitewashed wellness and what that would look like for Black people. And then, of course, over COVID, we had our summer of racial reckoning. And I said, that's what got me into what is known as the healing justice framework, in which we are truly decolonized. Mental health means that I am not the expert. I don't hold any patents on healing, that you can be a healer, she can be a healer. Joe down the street, the person who struggled with addiction, the person in active addiction. Like historically, Black folks have been their own healers. The Black community have been their own healers. So you see me and you see doctor, like that's, because that's what we have been our own doctors, whether we had degrees or not. Like somebody had some stuff up in the kitchen and you were sick and they would give it to you and you got better. Somebody would pray over you, would give you some things to pray about, and you would get better. And so having that shaped me in a way that made me want to do more, be more, show up more in my community, and really kind of explore. I think Kalisha said this, like that, locate myself as a practitioner and make a decision about where I wanted to be in, whether it was a movement or whether it was just being me and just wanting to see Black folks thrive. And that was my pivot. And I've later learned that, that ease that I like for life, because I'm anti-labor. I don't like to work hard. My own therapist helped me to reshape and reframe that as flow, and me valuing flow and grace. And it has led me to this point where I get to do some, amazing things. I get to hold space with people in the midst of white spaces as well. And find, an employer that allows me to do that, to the extent of which, it is reasonable within the framework that we're working in. So I guess in terms of origin stories like that is mine.
Hey, much appreciated. And I can resonate hard with that whole, like, not going the rough trodden path of like, I want to go that way. So I get it.
So can I just jump in real quick and say
absolutely.
this? So I'm feeling like I am with my people today. Hey, friends, because all of you all, your story has to do with something medical. And I thought I was the only one up here. I definitely thought I was going to be a pediatric neurosurgeon. I read Gifted Hands in the 4th grade. I went to Howard and I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to help to do surgery. And I got able to see surgery for real for the first time. And I was like, Lord, have mercy. I need a new dream because it was not going to go down. But I'm just loving the fact that I'm with my people. We all thought we were going to go the medical route, and look at us, still being used to heal folks.
Right. That's why representation matters. Like I don't think, we didn't like 90s, late 80s or whatever. We didn't see therapists. We didn't have the word psychiatrist one time because the school thought, somebody at school thought I had ADHD, and I did, but because it shows up different in Black folks and Black women and women and girls, I didn't quite get the diagnosis until much later into adulthood. But that was the only time, and it was such a bizarre experience. Both me and my dad was like, what is this? And that's like, go to Ashley's point, like representation matters, like seeing and knowing, and have we had the words, the phrase, the people, I believe everything happens for a reason and timing is divine. And yet still I have to actively kind of grieve and go through that process of like, what if we found these things sooner?
That's a whole story. That's the whole. I'm not even going to jump into that just yet. But like you, found out way later. Struggled all through public school and found out way later. After I had already had the mental break and ended up in the psych ward, and then the doctors were like, "Wait a minute, what are we seeing here?" And of course, this is like in my 30s, so this is within the last 10 years. What they said. The doctors were like, "Of course, we're more knowledgeable now." And the doctor's like, well, what is this that we're seeing? And it's like, it's not just depression, because that's what I originally ended up there for, was depression, severe depression at that. And they're like, well, this is not just severe depression, we're seeing some other things happening. And at 30, I want to say I was 30, I'm 40 now, so just about 2 years. At 30, they're doing these tests and they're like, sir, you have ADHD. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? I mean, I know of it, but what does that mean? And they're running me through it. And when I tell you every single point going down there, I was like, I remember that happening in school. I remember that happening in school. I remember that. Oh, I'm not stupid. Oh, I run, go tell that to everybody. Came back, told my parents, explained it. They was like, so that's what was happening to you back in school? And I'm like, yeah. And it was like, well, shit. Why couldn't we find out sooner? And I'm like, Me, yay, hey, I wish I had known too. We could have had some other things in places, but that is that's very, 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 very summarized origin story. As a kid, always wanted to. As a kid, I was one of those people that people came to for advice almost inherently, like naturally, and I always liked trying to get to the root of people's problems. I was like 12 years old, helping people who had been married for like 20 years and they're still together right now. But that was like one of those things, and I forgot about that actually, because I thought I was supposed to be going this other path. I thought I was supposed to be a musician, and so I went that. And I'm still a musician, but that wasn't really my strong suit. So then going through what I went through, in life just not adding up to me. I was trying to go this route and trying to live the life that I thought I was supposed to live instead of living the life that was given to me. And living with that mask, it choked to the point where I did finally have that break. And leading up to my first marriage failing, and divorce and separation, all of that kind of brought it to a head. And for me, I ended up having to hit rock bottom in order for me to see what my life really was. So I'm actually in the cycle, and I'm like, so yeah, no job, marriage ending, on the outs with family, on the outs with friends. What am I supposed to do? And it was very much a combination of kind of like that internal light going off. And I do also believe divine intervention. I definitely believe God stepped in on this. And I got my first glimpse of what the difference between what I was trying to live and what I was designed to live. And I chose my design as opposed to the paradigm that I believed I was given. And I have been on fire since. And to the point where I want other people to be on fire for themselves, like that. So that's my little bit to kind of like chug in there. To say that I definitely resonate with everybody. Stories have been revealed and uncovered. Now we apply them to the real point, the real core of the issue. With all that you have gathered and with all of you guys' experience, if you could pick one, and I know it is very layered and there are a lot of working parts to it, but if you could pick the one that you most commonly see when you're dealing with Black people and mental health, what would you say is the main obstacle? What would you say is the main issue that you find in dealing with people when they're coming to you for help or for guidance? Just the most prevalent one. And for that, mixing the bag up again, we'll start with Dr. Ashley.
You're right. When I read that question, when you sent out the question so we can know what we were going to be talking about, I was like, that is really difficult to pinpoint just one thing, because there's so much. So I kind of wanted to go the right route where I give you a combination. It's a combination. And these are the things I often see in combination with the Black clients that I do have. We have this part of Black clients that does not know how to rest. They literally don't know how to rest. They feel like they have to do everything. I have to get it done. If nobody else does it, then it's on me. I can't ask for help. That's a big thing with a lot of my Black clients. They struggle to ask for support and help. So coming to therapy for them, especially if it's their first time, that's the first time they're ever reaching out for any type of support. So it's this idea of I have to do everything, so therefore I can't rest, which often is manifest in anxiety, stress, depression. Those are the three top things I see Black people struggle with. And then there's also a lot of unpacking that I'm finding that my Black clients have to do, either stemming from having a religious upbringing or something from their relationship with their parents. It's always a mixture of those things that lead to how, and it manifests in their life and lead to how they're living now, where they feel like they can't put things down and they can't just rest. And then the major thing I see, because I work a lot with couples, that's my thing. Couples are my population. I love working with couples, whether married or not, on different things. And what I notice across the board is that we have an issue with learning healthy communication skills and healthy conflict management skills. That is the major thing. And I feel like if we could just learn how to communicate in a healthy way with one another, it would fix so many other issues. If we knew how to tell somebody, I need help, I need support, or just how to openly tell somebody, you made me upset, or I need to be held accountable. We have a struggle with communicating in a healthy way with one another and with the outside world. It's a problem, and we kind of keep in these cycles from generations ago, because that's just how it goes. We learn how to communicate from our family members, they learn from previous generations, and nothing ever changes. So I see a lot of patterns and cycles with my Black clients that are very hard for them to break, which leads to their anxiety and their depression and all these other things that they deal with, even physical problems. Like it manifests in migraines and flare-ups in eczema and just different things that Black people deal with physically that they don't recognize as this is stemming from a mental issue or something that I can't handle mentally. It's manifesting in a physical way, and they don't know that. That's what I tend to see a lot.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you. Moving on to Tiffany, please.
So going back to the setting that I work in, I work for an employee assistance program. And what that is that sometimes as a benefit, employers pay for a certain number of therapy sessions with a licensed counselor, so they can have like a, wellness program or wellness benefit. And my organization contracts with businesses to provide those services. And so I have a pretty big, I see a lot of people. Because as an employee of this company, not in private practice, I actually work for the company. And so we kind of get, scheduled, like we have these hourly and they fill them up. We don't block them in, we fill them up. And so my clients have run pretty much, we consider ourselves generalists, which means that for the intent and purposes of my employer, we don't necessarily have a specific specialty. So we can see anybody in anything, and we're supposed to be able to, support that person, because in the role that we feel, we don't necessarily do a lot of deep work. The idea is that we work with the working and worried well. So folks that, may have some mild to moderate challenges, but nothing super severe that, that is taking them too much out of their level of functioning. So that being said, it runs the full gamut of who I see: Black, white, Asian, Latinx, LGBTQ, we get a phone number and we call the folks and we deal with what shows up. And I haven't seen, in terms of issues, like an issue that is more prevalent in Black folks than any of the other folks that I've worked with. Howsoever, what I do see is the implications of racism and colonization, and it was actually talking about that unpacking and having to talk to folks and give name to, the fact that feeling, that you feel like when, you are, perceiving that you are getting more work than the rest of everybody else on the table is not you. Because some types of therapeutic interventions and modalities would, tell the person, don't take anything personal. Like that's not, may not really be happening. That's a cognitive distortion. But no, as well as that working in corporate America, or any type of level of profession, because we actually see everybody of all income levels and things of that nature too, that could very well be the actual factual thing that's happening. because Black folks are often seen as the mules of organization. And so being able to name that and validate a person's experience, and say that, you know, I see you like that. This may be that. I'm not going to say that it is full stop, but I would like you to consider that this is a thing, and being able to unpack the overt and the subversive ways that racism shows up. I have a client that I can talk to pretty candidly because he has, you know, he's a, you know, quote unquote woke, or, you know, he very kind of conscious and consciously aware, and he works in the school system. And we were kind of comparing, you know, our upbringings and the similarities. And so we would say something like, you know, I went to a pretty diverse school, and, you know, I didn't see the stuff that we see on TV today, you know, but there was that one time where, you know, the kid was walking, you know, driving by and, you know, had a Confederate flag waving, you know, from his truck. You know, or the controversy that happened. That was a big controversy in ninth grade, where, you know, somebody called somebody a nigger. You know, and it's like being Black in America is like living with this asterisk, like it wasn't bad, but, and we're supposed to excuse like these micro and macro aggressions just because we have a degree of privilege because we, you know, are in American. And so being able to like unpack for me what liberation is, what freedom is, and what I try to like work to bring into my room, especially for the people that I work with marginalized identities, is like living without that asterisk, those exclusions, and being able to name like, no, that's an asterisk, like that. Let's go back to that, because that has influence on how you show up at home, you know, how you show up at work, you know, that like you're taking like hits, like you're taking hits, and you've been told like not to name it. It's only been so very, very recently, very like this year, where that you could actually say without fear of punity, and some people still can't, that this was a microaggression, and call folks out on their BS. And so while I'm sure, you know, I haven't done those studies or anything, this is just me and my experience, I haven't seen anything, you know, Black folks are no more pathologized than any other population. However, the influence of colonization and racism and systemic oppression, like just infiltrates so many different areas of our world, and being able to name and unpack that and how it shows up in those different areas has now become like my work when I work with folks.
Okay, very much appreciated. And on to Dr. Kalisha.
So when I was thinking about this question, I kind of wrestled a bit with it, because I really believe, kind of the last thing that Tiffany said, that, you know, Black folks and folks in general all have struggles, all have challenges. And I don't know that we, you know, I think that there are things that we as a people wrestle with or challenged by, but, you know, I've had the privilege of working in all kinds of communities, and we all have things. But when I think about kind of the barriers, the things that get in the way for our folks, one of the things that stick out to me is just the pervasive nature of stigma and a distrust of mental health providers and institutions. And I really find that you know, people carry shame around this idea of needing support, of needing therapy. People believe that, you know, if they seek help, what does that mean? What's the implications of that? Does that mean I'm crazy? Does that mean I can't handle it? Does that, you know, from my vantage point and where I sit, people question, does that mean I don't have enough faith? Does that mean I don't really believe in God? You know, and so carrying around that burden, even as people walk into therapy or into spaces where we're doing work together, they still have that inner voice that's competing with what's happening in the room. And that stigma, it really seeks to get in the way. And that distrust, you know, I've had the privilege of working on, you know, inpatient psych unit for kids for a few years. And, you know, so that is a system, right? And let's be honest, you know, it was a wrestle for me, because I recognized I was a part of a system, because some of the distrust that our people feel is not unwarranted worry. There is a legacy, a pervasive legacy in this country of racism, oppression that is in systems, and mental health is a system, right? And so in sitting in that psych unit, I recognized when people came in, there was a distrust of the system. There was a distrust of leaving their child there. They thought social workers were baby snatchers. And then they looked at me, and I've been asked, are you gonna steal my baby? What y'all gonna do to her while she's here? What kind of tests are you running? And so I find that belief system and that distrust, as warranted as it is, it gets in the way of people's healing journey. It really does. And there's lots of factors for it, right? There's lots of factors for stigma. There's just a distrust. There's not, misunderstandings. We talked earlier about the fact that the work in mental health of the providers, it really left people out. I'm gonna be honest, I have no problem with whiteness at all, none. The challenge is when, I believe that whiteness, like anything else, was made by God and created to be beautiful and special. The challenge for us, right, the concern for us is that when whiteness is upheld as the only standard by which we can judge everything else or by which we can do anything else, then that's the issue for me. That's the problem. So I have no problem with whiteness. The problem is oppressive systems. And I have to fully acknowledge that as much as I want to dismantle systems, at times I sit in the seat of the oppressor. And that's rough, but what I've done inside of this system is, making sure that I take care of my own mental health as I do this work, but also recognizing it's so important to give people space to work through that distrust. Give them time to fully speak about the stigma of coming. So many clients that I work with in my private practice, they are the first person in their family to go to therapy. They don't want anybody to know they're in therapy. They don't understand therapy. They call on the phone for a consultation. They're like, so what are you going to do? Like, can you tell me what's going to happen? And I recognize that they're being courageous. They're being brave. They're doing something way outside of their box. So it's up to me really to be in the long line of this legacy of creating safe, creative, and accountable spaces for Black folks. This is nothing new. One of my sisters, I'm not sure which one, said earlier, Black folks have been doing this for each other for years, but now it's up to us as, mental health professionals to do that same thing in this profession, right? Creating that creative, safe, accountable space. And that's what I'm doing every time I see you. I recognize that I'm doing my best inside the system to dismantle it. I'm doing my best to utilize frameworks and paradigms that speak to my people. I'm speaking up, but I'm also making sure that when you come see me, you have space to work through whatever is going on with you. And I'm okay to hold the distress for a while. I'm okay. I can hold it. I could take it. You could dump it right on in here. I know you don't know how to feel about me when you walk in. I know you're not sure what I'm going to say, who I'm going to call, but that's okay. I can hold that, right? We can take this journey together. And so if I can help my people, move beyond, if I can be that voice that says, it's okay, come on in. You're welcome here. How you think is welcome here. You as a person is important. It's okay if your mama don't know you're in therapy right now, 18-year-old. It's okay. It's all right. Maybe eventually we can work on communication, like Ashley said, and get to the point where you can tell her. But either way, we're going to work through this together. So that's kind of what I've been, thinking about when it comes to this question.
Very much appreciated.
Can I interject real quick, just because she made me remember, Kalisha made me think of it. So as a student in an internship program, we have supervisors. We have our site supervisor, we have our university supervisor. So we have to record some of our sessions so that they can listen back to sections of it to kind of critique how we are with our clients. So that actually came up, how she just said, holding space for that distrust. Now, I originally went into my recordings like, I will not use one of my recordings with my Black clients. I will not use that one. So I have never used one with my Black clients. I always pick a different client. And that's just something that I chose to do. But I also recognize my way of being with all of my clients, no matter their race, no matter their background, is pretty much similar. So a critique that I received from my professor and my site supervisor was that I have a way of using self-disclosure that some people may not like. Self-disclosure is one of those things that's real tricky in therapy. You talking to this person and trying to relate to them from stories about yourself or something about yourself. So I had to explain to both of them, and I have no problem bucking against the system. That's just how I am. I'm like, listen to me. I said, especially with my clients of color, they already don't trust this process. I said, the only way that I'm going to get some of them to trust me is to open up to them or let them know you can ask me a question and I will answer the question. You can tell me your truth and I will hold space for that. You don't have to be afraid to tell me. And they didn't understand that. And I get they didn't, because as much as we teach multiculturalism in the field now and try to have the multicultural classes, as two white women, they still don't get it. And it's like, you don't understand how I have to relate to these clients, especially my clients of color. I may be able to do the book way of therapy with a white client, but I'm not going to be able to do that, because the thing with a lot of communities of color, not even just Black people, is they can tell when you are not authentic. And that is a problem. If I'm not authentic, they're not going to trust this process, and they probably won't come back. So I had to tell them, as my professors, I know you know this work, but you also can't get upset with me about how I work with my clients when it's working for them. Because at the end of the day, if it's working for them, then it's the right way. The methods that you are teaching me are not necessarily the right way for this client or this population of people. And they, like, I've had to fight against some of these grades I've got, like, no, go back, because this is my way of being, and you can't alter that when it works for my clients. You can't tell me this is not okay. As long as I am maintaining ethics and maintaining the foundational elements of the field and not breaking any of those regulations and rules, then I should be fine. And I had to fight for that in a lot of instances, because it's like, you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't be this way with the client. And I'm like, I need to get my client to trust me, especially my Black clients. So don't try to critique the way I am with them because it's different from you.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's one of the most crucial elements of this, us being mental, or us all being mental health workers. Having that understanding of the very nuanced approaches that we have to take with the different types of clients that we have, and that was I'm sure we've all, for the point that you made, I'm sure we've all encountered that in our work in one form or another. So thank you for bringing that point up. It's very much that is as important as anything else that we've spoken about tonight. In the interest of time, you guys actually kind of answered the third and fourth question in one shot, so I kind of don't need to ask it. Which takes us to just like some final thoughts. You have a crowd, you have the Black community in front of you. All right, you told them your story, you shared your expertise with them. They're sitting with you. What is the final thought that you would have for them to send them home? And that will go back to our original. Thing of going, just kind of like going down the line with Ashley and Kalisha and Tiffany. What is a final thought that you would have for the quote unquote audience as far as this process?
I guess my final thoughts, and I say this a lot when I'm wrapping up any panel that I've been on, when talking to my community, my Black people, I want them to understand that although there are barriers, they feel like there are all these barriers to seeking mental health, and I often hear the financial part comes up. As an intern, I have found that there are so many different options that you have. See an intern. We are much cheaper because we're getting the experience and we know the work, so it's not like you're getting less. But see an intern just so you can talk to somebody, that's way less. Or ask that space if they offer sliding scales. Find out what your insurance covers if you have insurance. And then another thing, and it kind of goes into that last question since we're wrapping up, don't be afraid of, and like Kalisha said, I hold space for the distrust that my community has. but also understand that when it comes to receiving any type of diagnosis, I know that with the Black community, labels can be very hard for us because you are labeling me, and how is that going to carry in my life? What is that going to mean for me down the road? So I like to tell my clients and just Black people in general, the diagnosis is not who you are. It is what you have so that we can get a proper treatment. It's not who you are. You are not the diagnosis. You are you, and you are your whole self, and you have strengths. And this is just one piece of you that we need to help with. And that's how you have to look at it. So just try to reframe your thoughts around what the mental health community is, and understand that there are a lot of us who look like you that are trying to represent you right now. So find us, reach out to us. If you can't find someone in your community, go online and search other communities, and they might know somebody in your community. Just find where you feel safe. If you do not feel safe in that space, you will not get the help that you need. So find where you feel safe and go from there, and know that there are people in this field that are literally here for you right now.
Amen. Much appreciated. Dr. Kalisha, please.
So friends, right? I'm gonna close how I started, and that's my authentic self, right? I'm just privileged to be a part of this work. I'm privileged to sit among two other beautiful sisters in this work. And I want to say to the family that might be watching that you are family, that you are loved, you are cherished, you are special. There's a purpose for your life. And if you feel alone, I need you to understand today, understanding that so many of us struggle and suffer in silence. You don't have to. You're not alone. You're not by yourself. You were created in the image and the likeness of God. And because of that, because he desires and designed for you to have purpose and to be a whole person, healthy and well, right? You can get support. If you're feeling like I don't have what it takes, you can find somebody. There are therapists, there are counselors, there are healers, there are leaders, there are teachers, there are pastors. Get to somebody. Don't struggle alone. And while I fully believe in therapy, because I believe therapy is for support, it's for processing, it's for moving forward, it's for setting goals, it's for healing. If you're not too sure about a therapist yet, it's okay. Get to somebody with some wisdom to help you move you forward. And then maybe they can help you find somebody that you can be comfortable with, a therapist that of your choice, or someone that you're looking to get some support. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't let that lie creep in and tell you you're alone. Don't think that all therapists look like what you see on TV. That's something very important to me to say. We don't all look alike. We don't all sound alike. The three of us ladies on this panel, it seems as though we have some similarities, but we're all very different in our modalities. And there is somebody out there for you that's designed to work with you on your journey. It might take a little maneuvering, but you can find that person. And therapy is not just for if you're struggling or something went wrong. It really can be to motivate you, to move you to the next steps. So I encourage you, don't get caught up in the system of it, but utilize it to help make your best self, your best life, the life that is purpose and intended for you to lead. Because at Wise Counsel, we believe that you can find your purposed direction.
All right. I like that plug. She got it in there, Tiffany. Go ahead.
Wow, you're gonna make me follow that. Both words from the beautiful woman that I have shared this panel with today. Final thoughts. I spent the weekend with my mentor, Dr. LaDonna Butler. She is in St. Petersburg, Florida, and does amazing work in advocacy and community and all of the things. She said something that resonated with me. She said that we are only as sick as our degrees of separation. And so I guess to piggyback, to wrap up, to support, however, what both Kalisha and Ashley stated was that find your village. Find, like, this is beyond like social support and having, someone to chit chat with, but find somebody that allows you to feel connected. They may not have to have the letters or whatnot after if they do, that's great. But if they don't, that's not where many of us even started. And we won't even be the last. And so, just get connected, get connected, find those people. You are worth the effort, you are worth the work, and there's no shame in being able to reach out and speak. And the more that you get connected, the less of that you will feel when you have someone that rootedness, that can really see you and hear you. So be able to be I used to say be vigilant and vicious about getting what you need to be well. Our wellness is our asset. Our wellness is our wealth. Our wellness is our building block. And not I'm not talking about whitewash, skinny, hashtag goals wellness, but that, really feeling full and whole, because it is hard to do anything when we feel less than. It is always an honor and a privilege to support folks, and almost anybody in the field will say the same. So you are not a burden to me, and you are likely not a burden to anyone in your world. If you could start now, if you're looking at this and you're feeling like you're fine, you very well may be. But you may want to begin to find that village, find that people, find that person. All it takes is one. What they say in the church, will there be one? All it takes is one person that shows that they care, that can really help to uplift you when times are hard. And it gets so much harder to do so when you're going through it. So you may want to consider beginning that journey now. Again, it doesn't even have to be a therapist. It could be wherever in community that you feel, because you may also be that one for somebody else. And that's how we level the playing field and begin to break down these systems of getting support. You can be someone's healer. You don't have to have no credentials or nothing like that. Just hold space and bear witness and say, hey, let's go do something. Let's go see about this. And so I guess if that's my final thought, that is it. Just stay connected, get connected. You have a beautiful community here that Chad and Nene are hosting. So that's a beautiful place to start. And so yeah, you're worth it. Let's do the work. Yeah.
I'm with it. My co-host.
Yeah.
Nene. Final thoughts there.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you ladies so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to us, Chad and I, to talk to our people, to let them see that there is help out there, that looks like them, that there are people out there that care enough for them to go into this field to help us as a community. And I like to take bits and pieces from what I heard over the course of the conversation, and I'm not going to name the names because I don't remember who said it, but where I remember Kalisha, because Ashley piggybacked off of it too. I love the fact that and I'm going to say this because we all do it because we're all in the mental health field, we hold that space for this distrust. We understand where that distrust comes from. We understand that people are not coming to us because of that distrust. So we already know that there's going to be distrust there, and we want to go on that journey with you. So that's one thing. Also with Ashley and her being the disclosure and being authentic, and people know when you're not being authentic, and that disclosure comes because we've gone through the experiences. So you're not coming to talk to people who think that, who don't understand the journey that you've gone through. We understand the journey that you've gone through. And even when Tiffany, I believe, mentioned that, even though we've gone through the schooling and the experiences and everything like that, we're coming from a place of love and a place of being of soft spokenness, of a place where we're not coming at you to talk at you, but we're coming at you to go through your journey with you. So and as a collective voice, if you need to get out there to a pastor, if you need to get out there to a teacher, if you need to get out there to a leader, if you need to get out there to a counselor, a therapist, a life coach, get to someone and talk to someone. Because again, and if we're out there, and it's just a matter of going out there and seeking the help that we all need. Chad talked about his experience. I've had my own experience with going to therapists and being diagnosed with mild depression and stuff like that. So it's out there. We've gone through the journeys with you 9 times out of 10 in different aspects of our life, but we're coming from a place of love and a place of understanding. And again, I want to thank you ladies so much for taking the time out to talk to us and to our people, and for them to know that help is available.
Much thanks, Lenny. Appreciate that. Just as a final thought, to the entire panel, I can't thank you guys enough. I feel like that portion where they talk about Grinch, where they say his heart swelled up 3 sizes. That's where I'm at right now. I cannot thank you guys enough. I definitely respect you guys and appreciate you for your insight. I appreciate you for your dedication. I appreciate you for your forthrightness and for you being open enough and giving time out of all of your busy schedules to be a part of this. I cannot thank all of you enough for this. All right, y'all all up in here right now. It's a really special time for me right now.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much.
Not a problem at all. Much appreciated. Of course, as we always wrap up, like, share, comment, since it's going to be on our Him and Her Spaces on YouTube, for you guys to go back and review. Like, share, comment. If you have any suggestions, we will provide our email in the description box below. Him and Her Talkspace podcast at gmail.com. That's where you can reach us by email. If you'd like to get in touch with any of these fantastic miracle workers, that information can be by request, and we'll definitely have information for you guys to reach out to them. They're in Kalicia's in New Jersey, Tiffany in Georgia, Ashley in Colorado, and whatever method that they relate to us as far as allowing people to get in touch with them, that will be made available upon request, of course. Any comments, questions about tonight's master, by all means, reach us out. You can DM us in the YouTube or reach out to us by email. You can also find us on Instagram at Him and Her Spaces, and also on Facebook at Him and Her Talk, Him and Her Spaces in the chat. With all that being said, we hope you guys had something from it. We hope, if anything, that this gave you the courage to take a step forward in that direction. If anything at all, if anything about this resonates with you in the slightest, give honor and love yourself enough to take a step in that direction. We are here for you. Whether that's providing a space for information like this to get out to you, being the actual coach or counselor or therapist that you seek out, or even being a reference to somebody that you ultimately find that connection with, and you're able to find your healing and find another and rediscover another sense of wholeness and another sense of purpose for yourself. All right. So with all that being said, we thank you guys for being part of the first ever Him and Her Soul Space. Definitely not the last. But yes, again, to Ashley Fennell, to Kalisha Smith, to Tiffany Reddick, thank you very much for your time. Very much appreciated. Love all of you, and I mean that. I like saying that. I love you, and I mean that. But yeah, so until next month in the Soul Space, where we will be bringing yet another hard-hitting issue that affects our community, and wonderful people to talk about it with. We will close the space for now, but for next month, we will see you then in the Soul Space, where, as with all our spaces, we have 2 coaches,
One space,
and 1 space.
zero
I like
reservations.
you, and 0 reservations.
Yay, guys.
All right, you
Thank
guys
you
have
so
a great
much.
night. God bless.
Thank you.